when I saw this woman begging, "Can I clean for food?" I didn't realize I was documenting the greatest corporate humiliation a CEO had ever suffered within her own company. Lisa Thompson was kneeling in the reception of the EcoClean corporate tower, the glass and steel skyscraper that shone against the sky like a monument to corporate success, holding a crumpled medical prescription, her silent tears dripping onto the Italian marble floor. "Please," she whispered to Amanda Rodriguez, the 22-year-old receptionist watching her with a mix of discomfort and disdain. "I just need a few hours of work. My daughter, my Emma, is sick." Amanda looked at the woman, apparently 40 years old, her messy blonde hair tied in a ponytail that hadn't seen shampoo for days, clothes clearly worn for a full week, worn-out sneakers leaving her toes exposed to the December cold. "Ma'am, this is a corporate building," Amanda said, trying to maintain a professional tone while other executives passed by, observing the scene with morbid curiosity. "We don't hire cleaning staff directly. We have a contracted company for that." Lisa closed her eyes and murmured a prayer Amanda could hear. "God, please, just give me one chance. Emma needs me." It was a prayer millions of parents had already made, the desperate plea of someone watching their child suffer while feeling completely powerless to help. "What's wrong with your daughter?" Amanda asked, something in her voice softening at the sight of genuine despair. "Leukemia," Lisa replied, unfolding the prescription to reveal a list of medications costing $3,000. "The insurance was canceled when I lost my job. Emma needs to start a new round of chemotherapy tomorrow, or..." Lisa couldn't finish the sentence, but Amanda understood perfectly. As the daughter of a nurse, she knew that delaying chemotherapy could mean the difference between life and death. $3,000, Amanda murmured, looking at amounts representing more than 2 months of her salary. "I can work for any amount," Lisa continued, wiping tears with the back of her dirty hand. "Clean bathrooms, vacuum carpets, wash windows, anything that lets me buy Emma's medications." Jennifer Walsh, the operations manager from the 30th floor, had come down to investigate the disturbance other executives were commenting on. At 35, Jennifer ran the cleaning operations for 200 commercial buildings with military efficiency that tolerated no interruptions or drama. "Amanda, what's the situation here?" Jennifer asked, observing Lisa with obvious displeasure. "This lady is asking for cleaning work in exchange for money for her daughter's medications." "Cleaning work?" Jennifer laughed with a coldness that made the lobby's temperature seem to drop. "Ma'am, do you know how much it costs to maintain cleaning in this building?" "No, but I can learn." $200,000 a month. Specialized equipment, industrial chemicals, staff trained for years. Jennifer made a dramatic pause. "It's not work for people in your situation." Lisa felt humiliation burning in her chest, but the strength of maternal love was greater than personal shame. "Jennifer, can I ask you a question?" "What?" "Do you have children?" "I do." "Why?" "Because if your child were dying and you had no money to save them, what would you do?" Jennifer hesitated, recognizing an emotional trap she didn't want to face. "That's irrelevant." "It's not irrelevant," Lisa interrupted, her voice gaining a strength that surprised everyone present. "It's the most relevant question in the world. What would you do to save your dying child?" Amanda watched the growing confrontation between the two women, one desperate, the other defensive, when she noticed something strange. Lisa's cell phone had rung, and the ringtone was a corporate theme Amanda recognized but couldn't identify. Lisa looked at the phone with an expression mixing panic and something that seemed like painful recognition. "Excuse me," she said, stepping away a few steps to answer. "Hello?" "Lisa," a male voice came through loud enough for Amanda to hear. "Where are you?" "The board of directors is asking." Lisa hung up quickly, but the damage was done. Amanda had heard enough to be confused. "Board of directors," Amanda whispered to Jennifer. Jennifer had also noticed the strange call. Lisa, she called. Who was that? Nobody important. Nobody important who asks about the board of directors. Lisa looked at Emma's prescription, then at the majestic building rising around her, then at the women watching her with growing suspicion. Jennifer, can I ask one last question before I leave? What? Do you know who owns the EcoClean Corporation? Jennifer frowned. Why ask that? Just curiosity. EcoClean is owned by a complex holding. Why would a woman in your situation care about corporate structure? Lisa smiled, but it was a smile that gave Amanda an inexplicable chill. Because, Lisa said, putting away the prescription and preparing to reveal a truth that would change everyone's life present, in 5 minutes, you'll discover why you should have offered me work instead of humiliation. And at that moment, the elevator doors opened, revealing a man in an expensive suit whom Amanda immediately recognized as David Chin, CEO of the building management. Lisa, David said, total astonishment in his voice. What are you doing here dressed like that? Jennifer and Amanda looked between Lisa and David, beginning to sense that something was terribly wrong with the situation. But what they didn't know was that in 30 seconds, they would discover they had just humiliated the most powerful person in the entire building. David, Lisa said, wiping tears but keeping her voice firm. I was trying to get cleaning work to pay for Emma's medications. David Chin looked at Jennifer and Amanda with an expression of growing horror. You rejected Sarah for cleaning work? Sarah? Jennifer repeated, confused. She said her name was Lisa. Lisa Sarah Thompson, David corrected, his voice carrying a weight that completely changed the atmosphere in the reception. Better known as Sarah Thompson, CEO and majority owner of the EcoClean Corporation. Amanda felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. Owner of EcoClean? Of the company that has a $20 million annual contract to clean this building, David confirmed. The woman you just expelled is your boss. But I still didn't know that this revelation was just the beginning of a tsunami that would change the lives of everyone involved forever. Jennifer was going through all stages of shock simultaneously, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, while processing the magnitude of the mistake she had made. This can't be right, Jennifer stammered. EcoClean Corporation is worth $200 million. Why would the CEO be begging for work for food? Because, Sarah said, her voice gaining an authority that had been hidden beneath maternal despair, when Emma was diagnosed with leukemia, I sold everything I owned to pay for experimental treatment. Sarah pulled a crumpled photo from her pocket, an image of a smiling 10-year-old blonde girl, clearly ill, her head covered with a colorful scarf. I sold stocks, properties, luxury cars, jewelry, everything to give my daughter a chance at life. Amanda looked at the photo and felt her heart breaking. Emma was the same age as her niece. And did it work? Amanda asked softly. Emma is in remission. But she needs preventive medications for the rest of her life to ensure the cancer doesn't return. David approached Sarah. Sarah, why didn't you call me? Why not use corporate resources? Sarah looked at him with an expression mixing exhaustion and determination. Because I wanted to test how the company I built treats people in real need. And what did you discover? Jennifer asked, already knowing the answer would be devastating. I discovered I built a company that considers appearance more important than competence. That judges need as weakness. That treats vulnerability as a crime. Sarah turned to Jennifer. You asked me if I have children. Emma taught me something while she was undergoing chemotherapy. What? She taught me that God sometimes allows suffering to teach lessons we wouldn't learn otherwise. Jennifer felt tears beginning to form. What lesson? That when you have power over other people's lives, whether as CEO, manager, or simply an employee who decides who deserves an opportunity, your choices determine whether families eat or go hungry. Amanda approached hesitantly. Ms. Thompson, am I going to be fired? Sarah studied Amanda's face, a young woman clearly from a humble background, working to pay for college, with no real malice in her initial rejection. Amanda, that depends on you. How so? You can be fired for discrimination, or you can be promoted to director of a social program I'm going to implement. Social program? What none of them knew was that the conversation was being recorded by the building's security system, and within 48 hours the video would be watched by millions of people worldwide. Sarah, David said carefully, I need to tell you something about EcoClean during your absence. What? The board of directors, they voted to sell the company. Sarah felt the world stop. Sell? To Megacorp International. The deal closes tomorrow at 5 p.m. For how much? $150 million. But Sarah, David hesitated. There's a clause in the contract. What clause? Megacorp plans to fire 80% of the employees and outsource operations to countries with cheaper labor. Sarah looked around the lobby where 500 people worked, Amanda at reception, Jennifer coordinating operations, security guards, technicians, cleaners, all who would lose their jobs if the sale went through. How many families would be affected? Approximately 1,200 people, including many single mothers who depend completely on this job. Jennifer approached, finally understanding the real magnitude of the situation. Ms. Thompson, if the company is sold, all of you who rejected me for my appearance will discover what it's like to be rejected by spreadsheet numbers. Amanda felt the cruel irony of the situation. We rejected you, and now we could all lose our jobs. Exactly. But Amanda, there's a crucial difference. What? Sarah smiled, but it was the smile of a general preparing a counterattack. You'll be rejected by a company that doesn't know the individual value of each employee. I was rejected by a company I built to care for people. What does that mean? It means, Sarah said, taking the elevator to the 40th floor where the boardroom was located, that in 1 hour I'm going to show the board exactly why humiliating the company's own CEO was a mistake that will cost much more than $150 million. But what I still didn't know was that Sarah wasn't just trying to save her company, she was about to revolutionize the entire concept of how corporations treat vulnerable employees. And Jennifer, Amanda, and 500 families were about to discover that a CEO who asks for work for food isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength that can move corporate mountains. Because when the elevator reached the 40th floor, Sarah would discover that the board of directors had done something that would make reversing the sale impossible. And Amanda was about to understand that rejecting a desperate person can be a mistake that destroys the lives of hundreds of innocent families. The elevator climbed 40 floors as if carrying a bomb about to explode. Sarah watched the digital numbers increasing, 15, 20, 25, each floor representing years of work she was about to lose to save her daughter's life. Sarah, David whispered as they ascended, I need to warn you about something before we get there. What? Marcus Webb is leading the sale negotiation. Sarah felt her blood run cold. Marcus Webb, the same executive she had fired from Medicare for implementing humane policies, who had tried to sabotage the Johnson Protocol, who considered corporate compassion destructive weakness. Marcus is on my board of directors. He was elected board chairman during your absence. He convinced other members that you were emotionally compromised because of Emma's illness. The doors opened on the 40th floor, revealing a conference room where 5 men in expensive suits were signing documents that would determine the fate of 1,200 families. But I still didn't know that Sarah was carrying information that would explode the negotiation like an emotional grenade. Gentlemen, Sarah said, entering the room with a dignity that contrasted brutally with her appearance, interrupting an important meeting. Marcus Webb looked up from the contracts, his expression changing from confidence to total shock. Sarah? How? What are you doing here? Attending a meeting of my own board of directors. The other four directors, Robert Chen, Alessandro Rossi, Thomas Miller, and Dr. James Peterson, watched Sarah as if seeing a ghost. "Sarah," Dr. Peterson said carefully, "you missed 2 consecutive meetings. We assumed you were indefinitely unavailable. I was taking care of Emma and trying to get work to buy her medications." "Work?" Marcus repeated. "Sarah, you're the CEO of a $200 million company. Why would you need work?" Sarah sat at the head of the table, the position she had occupied for 15 years building EcoClean from scratch. "Because I sold all my shares to pay for Emma's treatment. Because I chose my daughter over personal fortune." The silence in the room was deafening. "Marcus, can I ask a question about the sale to Megacorp?" "What?" "Why do you think the company is worth only $150 million when annual revenue is $220 million? Marcus exchanged nervous glances with the other directors. "Sarah, you've been absent for 6 months. You don't understand the current financial situation." "I understand perfectly." Sarah pulled a laptop from her pocket, the same expensive device Jennifer had noticed, inconsistent with the rest of her appearance. "Because I never stopped monitoring the company I built." Sarah connected the laptop to the room's projector, revealing spreadsheets that made all the directors pale simultaneously. "You sold $60 million in contracts to shell companies in the last 3 months." "How can you know that?" Robert Chen asked. "Because I set up automatic alerts for any transaction over 10 million. And because," Sarah made a dramatic pause, "because I still own 51% of the shares." "Impossible," Marcus said. "You sold everything." "I sold personal shares. I never sold shares from the holding trust one created for Emma." Sarah showed legal documents on the screen. "The Emma Thompson Trust owns 51% of EcoClean. And the trust is irrevocable while Emma is a minor." What happened next was an explosion of understanding that made the room's temperature seem to rise 10 degrees. "You tried to sell a company you can't sell," Sarah continued, "to finance an acquisition I discovered as international money laundering." "Money laundering?" Dr. Peterson repeated. "Megacorp is a front for a cartel that uses cleaning companies to transport drugs between corporate buildings." Sarah showed evidence she had collected during months of investigation. "You weren't just selling my company. You were turning EcoClean into a criminal operation." Marcus stood up, desperation finally showing. "Sarah, we didn't know." "You did. And you know how I found out?" "How?" "Because when you're sweeping streets to get food, you notice suspicious activity that executives in climate-controlled offices never notice." Sarah stood up, her authority returning completely. "Marcus, the motion to sell is canceled. You 5 are fired effective immediately." "And Marcus?" "What?" "Security has already been notified. The FBI arrives in 10 minutes to investigate the attempted fraudulent sale." Marcus looked desperately toward the window. "Sarah, we can negotiate." "The only negotiation I accept," Sarah said, "is you explaining to Amanda and Jennifer downstairs why you tried to destroy the jobs of 1,200 people to facilitate organized crime." And at that moment, Lisa Thompson, who had asked to clean for food an hour earlier, reassumed complete control of the $200 million company that had always been hers. But what no one in the building imagined was that the revolution was just beginning. Because Sarah had decided not just to save her company, she had decided to transform every cleaning company worldwide into a place where workers are treated with the dignity they deserve. And Jennifer was about to discover that humiliating the wrong person can result in a life-changing promotion she never imagined possible. Sarah descended to the lobby where Amanda and Jennifer waited in a state of total panic, watching 5 security guards escorting the former board members in handcuffs through the reception area crowded with curious employees. "Amanda," Sarah said gently, approaching the young woman who was visibly trembling, "are you okay?" "Miss Thompson," I didn't know. Amanda, breathe. Nobody hurt you. Amanda began crying uncontrollably. But I hurt you. I rejected you when you were desperate. And now I'm going to be fired. Sarah knelt to Amanda's height, the same way she had done with Emma countless times during her treatment. Amanda, can I tell you a secret? What? When Emma was fighting leukemia, I learned that people in crisis reveal who they really are. You weren't cruel out of malice, you were defensive by training. But I should have helped. You helped more than you imagine. How? You showed me exactly what was wrong with the corporate culture I created. And now I can fix it. Jennifer approached hesitantly, carrying the security badge she was about to surrender. Ms. Thompson, I assume you want my resignation. Actually, Sarah smiled. I want your promotion. Promotion? After what I did? Because of what you learned. Jennifer, you treated me cruelly because you believed that appearance determines worth. Yes, and I was wrong. And now you understand that every person in vulnerability deserves dignity. That's the most important qualification to lead social programs. Sarah gestured toward the hundreds of employees gathered in the lobby, watching the transformation unfold. Jennifer, look around. Every person here has faced moments of desperation. The difference is that some had support, others didn't. Ms. Thompson, Amanda whispered, can I ask something personal? Anything. How did you maintain faith during the worst period of your life? Sarah looked up at the ceiling, remembering nights when she had prayed desperately while Emma slept fitfully beside her. Amanda, every night when Emma couldn't sleep because of the pain, we prayed together. Not for money or health, we prayed for strength to face tomorrow. And God answered. God gave me exactly what I needed. Not what I wanted, but what I needed to become a person who could help others in the same situation. David Chin returned from coordinating with FBI investigators, carrying reports that would change everything. Sarah, the investigation revealed something bigger than we imagined. What did you discover? Megacorp wasn't just planning money laundering through EcoClean. They were planning to replicate the same scheme with 15 other cleaning companies nationwide. Sarah felt the weight of the revelation. 15 companies? 15,000 families who would lose jobs to facilitate criminal operations. Jennifer stepped forward. Ms. Thompson, what happens now? Now, Sarah said, her voice carrying an authority that commanded respect from every person in the lobby. We implement a program that will protect every cleaning worker in America from being treated as I was treated today. What kind of program? A program that guarantees a living wage, health insurance, dignity training for management, and zero tolerance for discrimination based on appearance or circumstances. Amanda raised her hand timidly. Ms. Thompson, how much will that cost? Less than what we saved by not being acquired by criminals. Sarah turned to address all the employees gathered. Everyone, listen carefully. Today marks a new chapter for EcoClean Corporation. Starting tomorrow, Sarah announced, every EcoClean employee receives a 20% salary increase, full family health coverage, and stock options that will make you shareholders in the company you helped build. Applause erupted through the lobby. But more importantly, Sarah continued, we implement a zero-tolerance policy for treating anyone, employee, client, visitor, with anything less than complete dignity. Amanda raised her hand again. Ms. Thompson, what about employees who don't perform well? Amanda, there's a difference between poor performance and genuine need for help. We help people improve. We don't humiliate them into quitting. Jennifer stepped forward. Ms. Thompson, how can we ensure that what happened today never happens again? Sarah smiled, thinking about Emma waiting in the hospital for medication that was now secured. Jennifer, excellent question. Because the answer will transform not just EcoClean, but the entire cleaning industry nationwide. How? By proving that companies can be profitable and compassionate. That treating employees with dignity increases productivity, reduces turnover, and creates loyalty that competitors cannot match. David looked concerned. Sarah, other companies won't implement similar programs voluntarily. They will when they discover that EcoClean's compassionate approach results in 40% higher profits and 90% employee retention. And if they don't? Sarah's expression became as determined as steel. Then we'll acquire them one by one, implement our standards, and prove that there's no excuse for treating vulnerable people as an inconvenience. What nobody in the entire building suspected was that Sarah's plan went far beyond just reforming EcoClean. She was about to launch a national campaign that would force every major corporation in America to choose between maintaining cruel practices or being exposed as companies that value profit over human dignity. And Jennifer was about to discover that rejecting a desperate mother could be the catalyst for becoming the most powerful advocate for worker rights that the industry had ever seen. 48 hours later, Sarah was at home caring for Emma when her phone exploded with calls from journalists worldwide. The security camera video showing her humiliation in the lobby had leaked and gone viral with impossible speed. "Mom," Emma said, looking at the trending topics on her tablet, "you're famous." Famous? Sarah looked at the screen. Hashtag CEO humiliated was trending worldwide with 15 million views. "Mom, people are sharing the video and saying they'll never treat cleaning workers badly again." Sarah scrolled through comments that made her heart tighten. "I cried watching this. Every parent has felt this desperation. My mother cleans offices to pay for my college. After seeing this video, I'm going to thank her properly. Every CEO should watch this. Humility is real leadership." But what I still didn't know was that the viral explosion would be just the beginning of a corporate revolution that would change America forever. Sarah's phone rang with a call from CNN. "Mrs. Thompson? Anderson Cooper here. Can you appear on the show tonight to discuss the video that's breaking the internet?" "Anderson, I'm honestly not sure I'm ready for national attention." "Mrs. Thompson, the video has 30 million views in 2 days. Every working parent in America relates to your story. You have a platform to change corporate culture nationwide." Sarah looked at Emma, who was listening with growing excitement. "Mom," Emma whispered, "you should do it. To help other families like us." "Emily, are you sure?" "Mom, when I was sick, you fought for me against everyone. Now you can fight for all working parents." Sarah accepted the interview, but what she didn't expect was the confrontation that would happen live on television. "Mrs. Thompson," Anderson said during the commercial break, "Marcus Webb from Megacorp agreed to appear tonight to respond to the allegations." "Marcus will be here? Live?" "Via satellite from his office. He wants to defend the acquisition that you blocked." The confrontation began the moment the cameras rolled. "Sarah," Marcus said from the satellite connection, his voice dripping with condescension that millions were watching, "you're manipulating public sympathy to save a failed business." "Failed business," Sarah replied calmly. "Marcus, EcoClean has $200 million in annual revenue. Had. Before you sold everything to indulge your daughter's medical needs." The silence in the studio was deafening. Anderson Cooper looked shocked at the brutality of Marcus's words. "Marcus," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength, "you just said on national television that saving a dying child is an indulgence? I said that emotional decisions don't make good business sense." "And what makes good business sense? Firing 80% of the workforce to increase margins? It makes sense for shareholders." Sarah stood up, looking directly into the camera. "America, this is Marcus Webb. A man who considers 1,200 families expendable for corporate profits. A man who thinks saving dying children is a poor business decision. Marcus realized he had made a terrible mistake speaking so coldly about Emily in front of millions of parents watching. "Sarah," Anderson interjected, "can you explain to viewers exactly what happened when you approached your own company for work?" "Anderson, I discovered that the company I built had become a place that treats desperate parents as an inconvenience to be removed." "How did that make you feel?" "It made me realize that success without compassion is complete failure." Marcus tried to interrupt. "Sarah, you're being overly dramatic." "Marcus," Sarah interrupted, "let me share something that will interest viewers." "Show them the document the FBI discovered during the investigation." Sarah held up papers to the camera. "These are emails between Marcus and Megacorp discussing how to eliminate expensive workforce and maximize profits through automation." "What does that mean?" "It means Marcus planned to fire not just cleaning staff, but also management, security, maintenance, everyone except executives." Anderson looked shocked. "How many jobs total?" "Across all 15 companies Megacorp planned to acquire?" 50,000 American families. 50,000 families who would lose income because Marcus considers human workers and inefficiency to be eliminated. Marcus was sweating visibly on camera. "Sarah, you don't understand modern business. I understand that modern business led by people like you considers families expendable for profit margins." Sarah turned to the camera with an expression that made millions of viewers feel personally connected. "But America, there's something Marcus doesn't know about tomorrow." "What happens tomorrow?" Anderson asked. Sarah smiled with confidence that had been building for 5 years. "Tomorrow, I announce that EcoClean will be acquiring Megacorp. All 15 cleaning companies that they plan to destroy will become part of a network that treats workers like family." Marcus's connection cut abruptly. Anderson stared at Sarah. "You're acquiring them?" "With financing from investors who believe compassionate capitalism is the future of American business." What nobody watching, not even Anderson Cooper, knew was that Sarah's announcement would trigger a corporate stampede. Every major corporation in America was about to face a choice: adopt compassionate practices voluntarily, or risk being acquired by a CEO who had proven that kindness was not weakness, but a strategy more powerful than traditional ruthlessness. And Jennifer Walsh was about to discover that helping Sarah implement the revolution would make her one of the most influential corporate reformers in American history. 24 hours after the CNN interview, Sarah's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Investors, CEOs, politicians, everyone wanted a piece of the revolution that was reshaping corporate America in real time. "Sarah," David said, entering her temporary office with a stack of contracts, "you broke capitalism." "How so?" 15 billionaires called offering financing for the Megacorp acquisition. They want to be part of the compassionate capitalism movement. Sarah looked at the list of names, some of the most powerful people in America, suddenly interested in proving they could treat employees humanely. "David, is this good news or terrifying news?" "Both. Because you now have the power to acquire any company that mistreats workers. But you also have a target on your back from every CEO who profits from exploitation." But what David still didn't know was that Sarah had been preparing for this moment since the day she held Emma's hand in the hospital, promising she would never let another child suffer because parents couldn't afford medication. Jennifer arrived at the office carrying a petition signed by 3,000 cleaning workers from around the country. "Sarah, this came in overnight mail." "What is this?" "Workers from companies that Megacorp planned to acquire. They're begging you to save their jobs." Sarah read the petition, each signature representing a family that could be destroyed by corporate greed. "Mrs. Thompson, we are cleaning workers from Atlanta, Detroit, Phoenix. We heard that you almost lost everything to save your daughter. Please help save our families too. We promise to work hard if you give us a chance for dignity. Signed, 3,000 American workers." Sarah felt tears starting. "Jennifer, How did they get my information? The video went viral in Spanish too. Workers across the country recognized themselves in your story. How so? Every cleaning worker has felt invisible, dispensable. Seeing a CEO beg to work alongside them gave them hope that maybe someone finally understands their value. Emma, who had been doing homework nearby, looked up from her books. Mom, why are workers asking for your help? Because, sweetie, they know that someone who would beg to work to save her daughter understands what it means to fight for family survival. Sarah's laptop chimed with a video call from Marcus Webb, calling from what appeared to be a police station. Sarah, Marcus said, a defeated tone that was almost satisfying. You won. Won what? Megacorp is finished. The FBI raid found evidence of money laundering, tax evasion, bribery of political officials. We're all being arrested. Marcus, honestly? Good. But Sarah, there's something you need to know. What? Before the arrest, Megacorp contacted 15 other corporations. They're planning to form an alliance against you. What kind of alliance? An alliance to blacklist EcoClean from all major contracts. To bankrupt you before you can acquire them. Sarah felt a familiar surge of determination that had carried her through Emma's illness. Marcus, tell me something. Do you remember when your son Tommy needed cancer treatment? Of course. And you remember feeling desperate when pharmacies wouldn't help? Yes. That desperation you felt? Every cleaning worker in America feels it daily. But unlike you, they don't have golden parachutes when companies decide they're expendable. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, what you're planning, it's war against the entire system. It's not war, Marcus. It's a correction. Sarah ended the call and turned to Jennifer and Amanda, who had been listening with growing amazement. Ladies, I need to be honest with you. About what? Jennifer asked. Acquiring Megacorp and 15 other companies will cost approximately $2 billion. Amanda's eyes widened. $2 billion? Do you have that kind of money? No. But I have something better. What? I have the support of every worker in America who wants to be treated with dignity. Sarah opened her laptop, showing a crowdfunding page that had been launched by the workers themselves. Look at this. Jennifer read the screen with growing astonishment. Worker Relief Fund, goal, $2 billion, current amount, $500 million, in just 24 hours? $500 million donated by working families who want to see corporate culture change. But Sarah, Amanda said, even with donations, acquiring 15 companies will require the biggest corporate buyout in American history. But Amanda, something interesting happened when the video went viral. What? 3 major pension funds, representing the retirement savings of 20 million American workers, contacted me. For what? They want to invest their funds in the acquisition. Because pension fund managers finally understand that companies that treat workers well generate better long-term returns. Sarah stood up, energy of someone about to attempt the impossible. Ladies, tomorrow morning we start an acquisition war that will determine whether American capitalism continues to exploit vulnerable people or evolves into a system that protects them. And if we lose? Jennifer asked. Sarah looked at the photo of Emma on her desk, a smiling girl who had survived cancer because her mother was willing to sacrifice everything. Jennifer, when your child's life hangs in the balance, you discover that losing is not an option that exists. What neither Jennifer nor Amanda suspected was that Sarah's real plan went beyond acquiring companies. She was about to announce that every corporation in America would face a choice: treat workers humanely, or be publicly exposed through a network of worker advocates that she was secretly organizing. And corporate America was about to learn that a CEO who begs to work alongside employees is not a weak leader, She is the most dangerous opponent that exploitation has ever faced. The next morning, Sarah was in the hospital holding Emma's hand during a preventive chemotherapy session when she received a call that changed everything. "Mom," Emma said softly, seeing tears in Sarah's eyes as she listened to the phone. "Did something bad happen?" "No, sweetie. Something unbelievable happened." Sarah hung up and knelt beside Emma's chair. "Emily, remember when you asked me if God had a plan for your illness?" "I remember. You said maybe he did." "Sweetie, I just discovered what that plan was." Emma, even at just 11 years old and facing cancer, had a maturity that broke any adult's heart. "What was it, Mom?" "The plan was that your courage to fight leukemia would give me the courage to fight a system that hurts families like us." But I still didn't know that the call Sarah had received would reveal that the war against corporate exploitation was just beginning. "Mom, who called?" "The president of the National Cleaning Workers Association. He said 3 million people watched our video." 3 million? And you know what's even more amazing? 2,000 families called sharing stories identical to ours. Sarah showed messages on her phone. Hundreds of desperate parents who had lost jobs during the pandemic, sick children, expensive medications. "Emily, every family is praying for the same thing we prayed for." "What?" "They're praying for someone with power to finally understand that workers aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They're parents fighting to save their children." Emma squeezed Sarah's hand. "Mom, did God answer our prayers by using you?" "Emily, God answered by using both of us. Your courage taught me that fighting for those we love can transform into fighting for everyone." What neither of them knew was that at that exact moment, in 200 American cities, workers were organizing peaceful protests demanding that companies implement the Sarah Thompson standard of dignified treatment. Jennifer arrived at the hospital carrying a tablet with news that made Sarah feel a mix of pride and terror. "Sarah, you need to see this." "What happened?" Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's, 15 of America's largest companies announced they will implement the Thompson Protocol for employee treatment. Thompson Protocol? A $20 per hour minimum wage, full family health insurance, paid medical leave. Sarah looked at Emma, who was smiling even with the chemotherapy needle in her arm. "Emily, this means no mother in an American company will have to choose between working and caring for a sick child." "Really? Because of our story?" "Because of your courage to teach me that it's worth fighting." But Jennifer looked worried. "Sarah, there's a problem." "What problem?" "Other corporations are furious. They say the protocol will destroy the American economy and that you're emotionally blackmailing the entire system." "Who's saying this?" "An alliance of 500 CEOs. Led by," Jennifer hesitated, "by someone you know." "Who?" "Marcus Webb. He got out of jail on bail and is organizing corporate resistance against you." Sarah felt a familiar surge of maternal determination, the same strength she had used to save Emily. "Jennifer, Marcus can organize as many CEOs as he wants." "Sarah, it's 500 against you." "No," Emma interrupted from the chemotherapy chair, "it's 500 against 3 million working families." Sarah smiled with pride at her daughter, who had learned the math of social justice. "Emily is right," Sarah said, picking up her phone to make a call that would change the corporate war forever. "Who are you calling?" Jennifer asked. "Anderson Cooper. I want a second interview." "Why?" "Because Marcus wants a public war. I'll give him a public war he'll never forget." Sarah dialed while Jennifer and Emma watched. "Anderson? Sarah Thompson. I want to make a live offer that Marcus can't refuse." "What kind of offer?" "A public challenge. If Marcus can prove that his companies treat workers better than EcoClean, I'll hand over total control of my company to him." Jennifer almost dropped the tablet. "Sarah, you can't bet your entire company. And if he loses the challenge, Sarah continued, he implements the Thompson protocol in all his alliance's companies. Emma perked up even during chemotherapy. Mom, this is like a competition. Exactly, sweetie. A competition to see who takes better care of working families. And you're going to win? Sarah looked at her daughter, who was facing cancer with courage that inspired adults. Emily, I learned from you that when we fight for people we love, we discover strengths we never knew we had. Jennifer approached nervously. Sarah, what if Marcus accepts the challenge but cheats? Then he'll discover something important about mothers who fought to save their sick children. What? Sarah smiled with an intensity that made Jennifer feel a combination of comfort and terror. He'll discover that there's no more relentless force in the universe than a mother protecting not just her own daughter, but all the daughters of all working mothers. What Jennifer still didn't understand was that Sarah wasn't just saving EcoClean or organizing workers. She was about to force the 500 most powerful CEOs in America to publicly choose between exploiting employees or admitting that the woman they considered emotionally compromised had discovered the future of American capitalism. And Emily was about to watch her mother transform a personal fight against leukemia into a national movement that would protect millions of children whose parents work in conditions that Marcus Webb considered adequate. But no one imagined that when the public challenge happened, it would reveal a conspiracy much larger than anyone had suspected. 1 week later, Sarah was in the CNN studio preparing for a live confrontation that would be watched by 15 million Americans. Emily was in the front row, wearing the colorful scarf that had become a symbol of courage for children with cancer across the country. Mom, Emily whispered before the cameras turned on, I'm proud of you. Why, sweetie? Because you're fighting not just for me, but for all children whose parents work for bad people. Sarah felt tears forming, the same kind of emotion that had led 3 million people to cry while watching the original video. Emily, will you pray for Mommy? I'm already praying, Mom. God will help you win. Anderson Cooper approached. Sarah, ready for the most important confrontation in American corporate television? Anderson, when your daughter almost dies and God gives you a second chance, you discover you can face anything. But I still didn't know that Marcus Webb had prepared a trap that would test every fiber of character Sarah had developed during Emily's fight against cancer. The cameras turned on and Marcus appeared via satellite, now accompanied by lawyers and 500 CEOs who had gathered in an auditorium to demonstrate corporate solidarity. Sarah, Marcus began with arrogance that made millions of working parents feel instant anger. You're using your daughter's illness to blackmail the entire economic system. Marcus, Emily is here with me. Want to repeat that while looking at her? The camera focused on Emily, who waved at Marcus with a smile that melted 15 million hearts. Hi, Mr. Marcus, Emily said with a voice carrying impossible wisdom for an 11-year-old. Mommy taught me that when people are cruel, it's usually because they're suffering inside. Marcus looked visibly uncomfortable. Emily, he said, his tone softening involuntarily, I'm sorry you're sick. Thank you. But Mr. Marcus, diabetes and cancer taught me something important. What? They taught me that suffering can make people more compassionate or more cruel. Mommy chose compassion. Which do you choose? The silence in the studio was absolute. Like millions of parents watching, every person felt the impact of a sick child questioning an adult about basic moral choices. Marcus, Sarah said, taking advantage of the emotional momentum Emily had created, I'm going to make a proposal your 500 allies can't refuse. What proposal? If you implement the Thompson protocol voluntarily, EcoClean won't acquire any companies. Competition remains fair. And if you don't implement it? Sarah smiled with the confidence of a general who knows the battlefield better than his enemies. Then I'll use the $2 billion in crowdfunding to acquire your companies one by one, until they all treat workers with dignity. Marcus consulted other CEOs via earpiece. Sarah, this is an impossible ultimatum. The Thompson Protocol would cost billions to implement. Marcus, how much did Tommy's medications cost when he had cancer? Sarah, that has nothing to do. It has everything to do with it. Because every CEO in that auditorium has children. And all of you would do anything to save those children. Sarah stood up, looking directly into the camera. America, I ask you directly, CEOs who love their own children but refuse to help employees save their children, are they hypocrites or are they human? What happened next was an explosion of calls and emails from viewers that crashed CNN's phone lines. Anderson Cooper consulted his earpiece, his expression changing to total shock. Sarah, I'm getting reports that this is unbelievable. What's happening? Workers from companies represented by Marcus are making simultaneous walkouts. In real time. During our interview. What do you mean? Employees from Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's are leaving work sites carrying signs that say we support Sarah Thompson and dignity for workers now. Marcus was sweating visibly on the satellite connection. Sarah, did you orchestrate this? Marcus, I didn't orchestrate anything. Workers decided for themselves that they prefer a CEO who understands struggle to a CEO who never faced adversity. Emily raised her small hand from the audience. Can I say something? Anderson smiled. Of course, Emily. Mr. Marcus, workers are supporting my mom because she almost became a worker herself. When you become a parent who needs to beg for work to save a child, then you can judge other parents. Marcus was speechless. And Mr. Marcus? My mom said that when you needed help for Tommy, her protocol saved him. Maybe gratitude is better than fighting? Anderson looked between Emily, Sarah, and Marcus. Marcus, how do you respond to an 11-year-old cancer survivor pointing out that Sarah's protocols helped your own son? Marcus removed his earpiece, looking deflated. Emily, you're right. Sarah, I surrender. Surrender? Implement the Thompson Protocol in all our companies. Immediately. Applause erupted in the studio and in the living rooms of 15 million families watching. But what nobody expected was that Emily's simple question about gratitude had exposed something that would change corporate America forever. Because Marcus's admission that Sarah's protocols saved Tommy would force every CEO in America to face an uncomfortable truth. Compassionate policies aren't business weakness, they're strategies that have literally saved the lives of their own families. And Sarah was about to discover that the revolution she started to save one daughter had become a movement that would protect the children of every working family in America. 48 hours after Marcus's surrender on national television, Sarah was in the EcoClean office when Jennifer rushed in with numbers that made her heart stop. Sarah, you need to see these statistics. What statistics? The Thompson Protocol was implemented by 800 companies in 2 days. 800. Sarah sat down slowly. How is that possible? Because every CEO watched Emily asking about gratitude and remembered their own children. No executive wants to be the man who denies dignity to desperate parents. Emily, who was doing homework at the office table, looked up with a smile that illuminated any room. Mom, does this mean we did it? Sweetie, this means God used your illness to cure cruelty in 800 companies. But I still didn't know that the national transformation was just the beginning of something much larger that Sarah had set in motion. Amanda, now promoted to Director of Social Responsibility, entered with a letter that made Sarah cry before she even finished reading it. Sarah, this letter arrived from a family in Texas. Sarah read aloud, Dear Sarah, I'm Maria, a single mother who works as a cleaner in a hospital. My son has autism and needs expensive therapy. After seeing your story, my boss implemented a protocol that allows me to miss work for therapies without losing pay. My son said his first complete word yesterday. Thank you, Aunt Sarah. God bless you for teaching the world that working mothers deserve dignity. Emily approached. Mom, how many letters like this have arrived? 15,000, sweetie. From every state. All from mothers? Mothers, fathers, grandparents, families who can now care for sick loved ones without fear of losing their jobs. Sarah showed Emily the office wall covered with photos that arrived daily, smiling children alongside parents who no longer had to choose between work and medical care. Emily, each photo represents a child who will grow up knowing the system protects families instead of destroying them. What none of them knew was that the corporate compassion revolution was attracting the attention of very powerful people who wanted to use the movement for their own purposes. David Chin arrived with a red envelope, the kind used for maximum emergency federal communication. Sarah, an invitation just arrived that will change everything. Invitation to what? The White House. The president wants a meeting to discuss national implementation of the Thompson Protocol. Emily jumped from her chair. Mom, you're going to meet the president? Looks like it, sweetie. Can I come too? David smiled. Emily, the president specifically asked for you to accompany Sarah. Said he wants to meet the girl who taught America about courage. Jennifer approached with a worried expression. Sarah, this is amazing, but what? Marcus Webb secured a private meeting with the president before your meeting. He'll be there. Sarah felt a familiar surge of protective instincts that had been refined by years of caring for Emily during treatment. Jennifer, Marcus can speak with the president first. But I speak with the heart of America. How so? Marcus will present numbers and economics. I will present faces and families. Emily approached the conversation. Mom, can I bring something to show the president? What, sweetie? Emily pulled out a folder full of drawings she had made during chemo sessions. Drawings of all the families who wrote to us. To show that we're not just a mom and daughter, we represent millions. Sarah hugged Emily with pride that made her chest ache. Emily, you're a more powerful negotiator than any corporation has ever faced. That evening, Sarah received a phone call that revealed the true magnitude of the resistance she was facing. Sarah, this is Agent Martinez, FBI. I need to warn you about something. What did you discover? Marcus Webb isn't working alone. The investigation revealed he receives funding from foreign corporations that want to destabilize American worker protections. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Foreign corporations? Companies in countries where worker exploitation is legal. They're funding Marcus because American compassionate capitalism threatens their business model worldwide. This means this fight isn't just about American workers. It's about whether compassion will become a global standard or will be crushed by interests that profit from human suffering. Sarah looked at Emily, sleeping peacefully after a long day of advocacy work. Agent Martinez, how much danger are we in? Sarah, you've become the most important person in the global fight between exploitation and dignity. That makes you a target. And Emily, we're arranging protection. But Sarah, I need you to understand the magnitude of what you started. How so? If the Thompson Protocol succeeds nationally, 15 countries have already committed to implementing similar standards. If it fails, worker exploitation continues globally for the next few decades. Sarah walked to the window, looking at the city lights where millions of families were sleeping, trusting that morning would bring work that treated them fairly. Agent Martinez, when is the meeting with the president? Tomorrow. But Sarah, Marcus will be there with a team of economists, lawyers, and foreign advisors. He'll try to prove that compassion is financially unsustainable. And what will I prove? you'll prove that an economy built on dignity is the only economy worth having. What Agent Martinez couldn't tell Sarah was that tomorrow's meeting would determine not just the future of American workers, but whether human compassion could defeat corporate greed on a scale that had never been attempted before. And Emily was about to prove that an 11-year-old cancer survivor could ask questions that would force the most powerful people in the world to confront the truth about what kind of legacy they wanted to leave for their own children. But no one imagined that Marcus had prepared a final desperate move that would force Sarah to choose between saving her business or exposing corruption that went straight to the top of the American government. The next morning, Sarah walked through the halls of the White House holding Emily's hand, who carried a folder with drawings from all the families who had written asking for help. "Mom, I'm nervous," Emily whispered as security escorted them to the Oval Office. "Me too, sweetie. But remember what God taught us during your chemotherapy. That when we do the right thing for the right reasons, He gives us strength we didn't know we had." Exactly. And today, we'll need all the strength God can give us. When they arrived at the Oval Office, they found the president waiting alongside Marcus Webb and 5 men in expensive suits whom Sarah didn't recognize. "Mrs. Thompson," the president greeted warmly, "thank you for coming. And you must be Emily." "Hi, Mr. President," Emily said, offering one of her drawings. "I drew you helping working families." The president accepted the drawing with a genuine smile that made Sarah feel the first wave of hope. But I still didn't know that Marcus had brought people who would make the meeting more dangerous than Sarah could imagine. "Mr. President," Marcus began, "I brought economists who can explain why the Thompson Protocol will destroy the American economy." "And I brought Emily," Sarah responded, "who can explain why an economy that doesn't protect children isn't worth preserving." One of the unknown men stood up. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Dr. Vladimir Petrov, an economist from Harvard. The Thompson Protocol would cost $300 billion annually to implement nationally." "Dr. Petrov," Emily answered before Sarah could speak, "how much does it cost when a child dies because parents can't afford medicine?" Dr. Petrov looked visibly uncomfortable being questioned by a child. "Emily, economics doesn't work based on emotions." "Dr. Petrov," Sarah interrupted, "may I ask a personal question?" "What? Do you have children?" "I do." "And if one of your children needed expensive medication and you had no money?" "That's an irrelevant hypothetical." "It's not hypothetical," Emily said, pulling a photo from her pocket. "It's a photo of my friend Katie, who died last month because her father lost health insurance." The room fell into absolute silence. Katie was 9 years old. She had the same cancer as me. The difference is that my mom sold everything to save me. Katie's father had nothing to sell. The president approached Emily. "Emily, I'm so sorry about your friend." "Thank you, Mr. President. But Katie didn't need to have died if Mommy's protocol had existed before." Sarah studied the faces of the 5 men Marcus had brought, her instinct telling her something wasn't right. "Mr. President," Sarah said carefully, "may I ask who these advisors are?" Dr. Petrov assured me they're economic experts. "Actually," Emily interrupted, pulling a second drawing from her folder, "I drew them too." "What do you mean, sweetie?" Emily showed a drawing that made Sarah feel a chill run down her spine. "I recognized some of them from the photos Agent Martinez showed us. They're people who work for companies in other countries where workers don't have rights." Dr. Petrov stood abruptly. "This is a ridiculous accusation from a child." "Emily," the president said seriously, "how do you know about Agent Martinez?" "Because the FBI protected us when Marcus threatened our family. And Agent Martinez showed photos of people who are funding resistance against worker dignity." Sarah pulled out documents the FBI had provided. "Mr. President, these 5 men represent foreign corporations that exploit workers in countries where labor laws are weak. They're here to convince America to maintain exploitation because compassionate capitalism threatens their business models worldwide. Marcus realized he had been exposed. "Sarah, you can't prove." "I can prove everything," Emily said, pulling out a third drawing. "Because I drew everybody Mommy pointed out in the FBI photos." Emily's drawing showed 5 men sitting around a table with name tags: Petrov Russian factories, Chinese sweatshops, Kumar Indian child labor, Santos Brazilian exploitation, Mueller German union busting. The president examined the drawing with growing alarm. "Emily, where did you see these photos?" "At the FBI briefing about foreign interference in American worker rights." The president immediately called security. "Gentlemen, please escort these 5 advisors out. They're being investigated for foreign interference." Marcus was left alone, his support system crumbling in real time. "Marcus," Sarah said gently, "there's still time to make the right choice." "What choice?" "The choice between fighting compassion because you're embarrassed, or embracing compassion because it's the right thing to do." Emily approached Marcus with a third drawing. "Mr. Marcus, I made a drawing for you too." "What is it?" "It's a drawing of you and Tommy together, both smiling because Mommy's protocol saved both of you." Emily paused, wisdom beyond her years shining through. "Mr. Marcus, you can choose to be the person who fights against the help that saved your son, or you can be the person who helps save other sons and daughters." Marcus looked at the drawing, then at Emily, then at Sarah. "Emily, you're right. Your mother saved Tommy. And instead of gratitude, I gave her nothing but attacks." Marcus turned to the president. "Sir, I withdraw all opposition to the Thompson Protocol. Implement it immediately." The president nodded. "Effective tomorrow, the Thompson Protocol becomes federal law." Emily hugged Sarah. "Mom, we won. We won because you showed America that a child who almost died can teach adults about the value of human life." What nobody in the room suspected was that Emily's drawings had exposed an international conspiracy to suppress worker rights that went much deeper than anyone imagined. And Sarah was about to discover that saving Emily from cancer had accidentally uncovered a network of exploitation that threatened workers worldwide, making her not just an American hero, but a global symbol of resistance against corporate cruelty. But Emily was about to prove that sometimes an 11-year-old cancer survivor is exactly what the world needs to remind powerful adults that they're fighting about the future of someone's children, including their own. 6 months after federal approval of the Thompson Protocol, Sarah was at the hospital where Emily was having a routine checkup when she received a call that made her cry with pure joy. "Sarah? This is Dr. Maria Santos from the Department of Labor Statistics. I have numbers that will move you." "What numbers?" "In 6 months, the protocol has documentedly saved 23,000 jobs of parents with sick children. 23,000 families who didn't have to choose between work and caring for those they love." Sarah held Emily tighter. 23,000. And there's more. The suicide rate among working parents dropped 40%. Because when people have dignity at work, they find hope to face personal crises. Emily, now completely cured for 4 months, smiled with inverted maternal pride, a daughter proud of a mother who had changed the world. "Mom, God really used my leukemia to save other families." "Emily, God used your courage to teach me that fighting for you would give me strength to fight for the whole world." But I still didn't know that the national success had attracted the attention of someone who would change Sarah's destiny forever. That afternoon, Sarah received an unexpected visitor at the EcoClean office. It was an elegant woman approximately 60 years old, with a presence that radiated natural authority. "Mrs. Thompson? I'm Catherine Wells from the World Economic Forum. How can I help you?" "Actually, I came to offer an opportunity that might interest you." "What opportunity?" "The United Nations wants to create an international Thompson Protocol. A global standard that forces all corporations worldwide to treat workers with dignity. Sarah felt as if she had received an electrical shock. Global? Sarah, your story has inspired worker movements in 40 countries. Governments are demanding that multinational companies adopt humane standards or lose access to local markets. Emily, who was coloring nearby, looked up. Does that mean no child in the whole world will go through what I went through? It means exactly that, Emily. Sarah sat down, trying to process the magnitude of the responsibility being offered. Catherine, implementing a global protocol would require resources that would require $2 trillion in restructuring costs, Catherine interrupted. Money that a consortium of compassionate investors has already committed. $2 trillion? Who would invest that much? Every billionaire parent who watched you fight for Emily and realized that wealth without compassion is a meaningless legacy to leave children. Suddenly, Emily pointed to the window. Mom, look who's arriving. Sarah looked and saw Marcus Webb walking through the parking lot, but something was different. He was carrying flowers in a small gift bag, his approach humble instead of aggressive. Sarah, Marcus said when he entered the office, I brought something for Emily. For me? Emily asked, curiosity overcoming caution. Marcus handed over a gift bag containing a book, Brave Kids Beat Cancer, Stories of Courage. Emily, your courage during the CNN interview changed how I see everything. How so? You asked about gratitude. Made me realize that instead of fighting the woman who saved Tommy, I should be thanking you. Marcus turned to Sarah. Sarah, I came to offer something. What? Megacorp assets. All of them. To add to the global protocol funding. Sarah stared. Marcus, you're giving up your company? Tommy asked me last week what legacy I want to leave for him. I told him I wanted to leave a world where sick kids get medicine regardless of what parents can pay. Emily smiled. Mr. Marcus, that's a beautiful answer. Emily, you taught me that gratitude is a stronger emotion than pride. Catherine Wells stood, authority filling the room. Sarah, a decision needs to be made today. Why today? Because tomorrow, the United Nations votes on global implementation. Your answer determines whether the world adopts compassionate capitalism or continues the current system of exploitation. Sarah looked at Emily, who was reading the book Marcus had given her. Emily, what do you think? Should Mommy try to help workers worldwide? Emily looked up with wisdom that never failed to amaze adults. Mom, remember when I was very sick and you said that if God wanted you to help just me, He would have made my cancer easier to cure? I remember. You said that maybe God made it hard because He wanted you to learn how to help lots of people, not just me. Sarah felt goosebumps. And you think this is what God intended? I think God let me get cancer because He knew you would fight hard enough to save not just me, but every child whose parents love them like you love me. Sarah embraced Emily, finally understanding that her daughter's illness hadn't been a tragedy to overcome, but training for a mission that was bigger than either had imagined. Catherine, Sarah said, I accept the position. Sarah, Jennifer interrupted, this means you'll be responsible for worker dignity in every country in the world? It means I'll be responsible for ensuring that no mother anywhere has to choose between dignity and survival. What nobody in the room knew was that Sarah's acceptance would trigger a corporate revolution that would reshape capitalism globally. And Emily was about to become the youngest advisor in United Nations history, proving that a child who survived cancer could teach world leaders about policies that actually protect what matters most. But the biggest surprise was still coming, because Marcus's transformation from enemy to ally was about to reveal a conspiracy that threatened everything Sarah had built. 2 years after the White House meeting, Sarah stood on the stage of the UN General Assembly, holding Emily's hand as delegates from 193 countries voted unanimously to implement the Global Thompson Protocol. Mom, Emily whispered, did we really change the whole world? We did, sweetie. Because you taught me that when we fight for those we love, we discover we can fight for everyone. The Secretary General approached with a document that would make Sarah cry in front of billions of people. Sarah Thompson, in the name of humanity, we declare that no family in the world will be forced to choose between workplace dignity and caring for sick loved ones. Sarah hugged Emily, tears flowing freely. Emily, your leukemia saved millions of families. How? Because it taught me that God sometimes allows suffering to create the strength needed to protect other people from the same suffering. But I still didn't know that the global transformation was just the beginning of the mission God had planned for Sarah and Emily. Marcus, now director of the Thompson Foundation for Working Families, approached carrying a report that made Sarah's heart race. Sarah, the first-year numbers have arrived. How are we doing? The Thompson Protocol has documentedly saved 200,000 families from extreme poverty. Children who would have died from lack of medication are now healthy because parents can work with dignity. Emily perked up. Mr. Marcus, does that mean Katie would have survived if the protocol had existed before? Marcus knelt to Emily's height. Emily, your friend Katie is the reason I fight every day to implement the protocol quickly. Because you don't want other Katies to die. Exactly. Because you taught me that real gratitude is shown by protecting other children like you. Sarah watched the conversation between Marcus and Emily with admiration. The man who had tried to destroy her company now dedicated his entire life to honoring the memory of a child he'd never met. Marcus, how is Tommy? Completely cured. And you know what he told me last week? What? He said he wants to study medicine to care for children like Emily. Because Emily showed that brave children can inspire adults to be better. Jennifer came running with news that would make Sarah understand the full magnitude of what she had accomplished. Sarah, the Global Impact Survey just came out. What kind of impact? Suicide among working parents dropped 70% worldwide. Because when people have dignity at work, they find hope to face any crisis. Sarah sat down, overwhelmed by the responsibility she had assumed. Jennifer, sometimes I still can't believe it all started with me asking to clean bathrooms for food. And sometimes I can't believe I rejected you, Jennifer replied. But Sarah, that rejection was a blessing in disguise. How so? If I had given you work immediately, I never would have learned the lesson I now teach to 1,000 executives per month. What lesson? That appearance never reveals a person's true value. And that humiliating someone vulnerable can be a mistake that haunts you forever. Emily approached. Aunt Jennifer, you learn because Mommy taught through example. Example of what? Example that when someone is cruel to you, you can choose between revenge or redemption. Mommy chose redemption. Amanda arrived carrying a special envelope, the same type that had changed Sarah's life years ago. Sarah, a very important letter. From whom? From Anna Pereira. Sarah frowned. I don't know Anna Pereira. Yes, you do. She's the cleaner who works in the building where you first asked for work years ago. Sarah opened the letter, immediately recognizing the humble handwriting. Dear Sarah, I'm Anna, the cleaner who saw you crying in the lobby when you were rejected. That day, I wanted to help but was afraid to speak up. Today, because of your protocols, my daughter got the surgery she needed without me losing my job. God used you to answer prayers I didn't know how to make. Thank you for showing that cleaning workers are human beings worthy of dignity. Anna Pereira, proud cleaning worker. Sarah felt the circle being completed. The woman who had been too afraid to help a desperate mother had been helped by the protocols that desperate mother created. Emily, Sarah said, remember when you asked if God had a plan for your cancer? I remember. The plan was that your courage would teach me to fight for you, which would teach me to fight for everyone, which would teach the world that love is the strongest force for social change. Emily hugged Sarah. Mom, so my cancer saved the world? Your cancer taught the world that when you love someone enough to sacrifice everything, you discover you can sacrifice everything to save everyone. Marcus approached with a final update. Sarah, the last resistant country, just approved the protocol. Zimbabwe was the holdout, but pressure from other African nations forced compliance. Does that mean? It means that every worker on the planet now has protection against exploitation. Every parent can care for a sick child without fear of losing their job. Sarah looked around the room, at Emily, who had survived cancer to teach the world about courage, at Jennifer, who had learned compassion through causing pain, at Marcus, who had found redemption through helping families he once would have ignored. Everyone, Sarah said, I want to visit the place where it all began. The EcoClean lobby? The lobby where Ana Pereira still works. I want to thank the woman who was too afraid to help me, but whose letter today showed that our revolution has come full circle. What none of them suspected was that visiting Ana would reveal a final twist that would define Sarah's ultimate legacy. Because Ana Pereira had a secret that would prove that sometimes people who seem powerless to help are actually the key to triggering changes that transform entire civilizations. And Emily was about to meet the woman whose silent witness to a mother's humiliation had inspired 40 years of advocacy that would protect worker dignity for generations. 3 days later, Sarah and Emily entered the EcoClean Tower lobby where everything had begun, looking for Ana Pereira. They found a 50-year-old woman cleaning marble floors with a precision that spoke of decades of experience. Ana, Sarah approached gently. Ana looked up and immediately recognized the woman she had seen humiliated years ago. Oh my God, Ana whispered, you're Sarah Thompson. The woman who changed the world. Ana, you wrote the most beautiful letter I've ever received. Ana began crying, leaning her mop against the wall. Miss Sarah, forgive me for not helping when you needed it. Ana, you helped more than you imagine. How? I was a coward who stayed silent. Emily stepped forward. Aunt Ana, Mommy said you witnessed an injustice that inspired her to fix the entire system. How so? Sarah knelt to the height where Ana was working. Ana, why did you choose to work as a cleaner? To feed my family. I have 3 daughters. Ages? 7, 9, and 11 years old. Sarah felt an electrical shock of recognition. Ana, your 11-year-old daughter, is she sick? Ana nodded, fresh tears flowing. Diabetes. Like your Emily had cancer, my Isabella needs medicine that costs more than my salary. And you didn't ask for help because I was afraid of losing my job. I was afraid that if I complained about anything, I'd be fired like other workers who spoke up. Emily approached Ana with understanding that only a child who had faced serious illness could have. And Ana, does your Isabella take insulin? She does. And every month, I choose between medicine for her or food for my other daughters. Sarah stood, the full circle of understanding washing over her. Ana, do you want to know something incredible? What? The protocol I created because of Emily's cancer guarantees that you never have to make that choice again. How? Ana Pereira, I'm promoting you to Director of Worker Advocacy for all EcoClean operations. Ana stared. Director? But I'm just a cleaner. You're a mother who understands exactly what other working mothers face. That makes you the most qualified person to protect them. Emily pulled a drawing from her backpack. And Ana, I drew a picture for you. The drawing showed Ana and her 3 daughters smiling together, with the words, "Heroes help heroes," written in Emily's careful handwriting. Emily, why did you draw this? Because you helped Mommy even without knowing. Your silence taught her that the system was broken. Your letter taught her that fixing the system actually worked. Anna embraced Emily. "Child, you have the wisdom of an angel." "And Anna, we both learned the same lesson." "What lesson?" "That when bad things happen to good people, God sometimes uses the bad things to create good changes for everyone." Sarah watched Anna and Emily bonding over a shared understanding that only families who had faced medical crises could share. "Anna," Sarah said, "I want to make an announcement." "What announcement?" "The Anna Pereira Foundation for Working Mothers. Specifically for mothers with sick children who need job flexibility to care for their families." Anna sat down heavily. "A foundation with my name?" "A foundation that ensures that never again will a working mother have to choose between a paycheck and her child's health." Marcus arrived at the building at that moment, carrying Tommy by the hand. "Sarah, Tommy wanted to meet Emily and Anna." Tommy, now a healthy 8-year-old, approached Emily shyly. "You're Emily? The girl who taught my dad to be nice." Emily smiled. "You're Tommy, the boy whose daddy learned that helping people feels better than being mean." As the children began playing together, Sarah, Anna, Jennifer, and Marcus stood watching with amazement at how personal tragedies had transformed into universal protection. "Sarah," Anna said quietly, "can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "The day you were humiliated here, I went home and told my daughters I had seen something important." "What did you tell them?" "I told them that when they grow up, they should never treat desperate people badly, because someday they might be desperate too." "And what did they say?" "My oldest daughter, Isabella, said, 'Mama, maybe that lady was an angel testing if people would be kind.'" Anna paused. "I think Isabella was right." Sarah felt chills running through her body. "Anna, do you think everything happened for a divine reason?" "Sarah, I think God sent you here to teach all of us that compassion is not weakness, it's a strength that can move mountains." Emily overheard the conversation and joined the adults. "And Anna is right, Mom. God used my cancer to teach you about fighting. Then he used your fighting to teach Mr. Marcus about forgiveness. Then he used his forgiveness to teach the world about compassion." Marcus nodded. "Emily, you described a chain reaction of grace that started with your illness and ended with global transformation." "Exactly. Like dominoes, but instead of falling down, people fell up." Anna laughed. "Emily, you have a way with words." Jennifer arrived with a final surprise. "Sarah, someone special is here to see you." "Who?" Through the doors walked a woman Sarah recognized from photos but had never met in person. "Sarah Thompson? I'm Katie's mother." Sarah felt her breath catch. Katie, Emily's friend who had died because her family couldn't afford treatment. "Mrs. Rodriguez. I'm so sorry about Katie." "Don't be sorry. Be proud." "Proud?" Katie died before the protocol existed. But because her death inspired Emily to speak up, millions of other children will live. Katie's death meant something. Emily approached Mrs. Rodriguez with tears in her eyes. "Katie's mommy, did she really save other kids?" "She saved them through you, Emily. Because you told her story, the world decided that no more Katies should die." Sarah embraced Mrs. Rodriguez, finally understanding that every piece of tragedy had been necessary to create protection that would last forever. "Mrs. Rodriguez, Katie will be remembered forever in the protocol. I promise." "Sarah, Katie is remembered every time a parent can stay home with a sick child without losing their job. That's a memorial more beautiful than any mother could want." As they left the building together, Sarah, Emily, Anna, Marcus, Jennifer, Mrs. Rodriguez, Sarah realized that a humble request to work for food had become the foundation for a global system of dignity. The woman who had begged to clean bathrooms for food had cleaned the conscience of capitalism itself. And Emily, the child who had almost died because medicine was expensive, had taught the world that love is the only currency that truly matters.